Hi everyone, welcome back to the audit and attestation. We are about to finish audit and attestation. In this class, which is part 2 of reporting on audit engagement, we'll be covering form and content of audit report, including use of emphasis of matter, and we'll also cover other matter paragraph. So this is part 2. Please go through part 1 as well, and this one is in continuation of the same. So let's dive into to understand more in detail. So we have started with reports on audit engagement. So we have discussed first point, which is forming an audit opinion, including modification and auditor opinion. So now we'll be starting with second point, which is in detail and more in explanation for content of the reports, emphasis of matter paragraph or other matter paragraph, what all things you need to include. And then we'll be, if time allows, we'll be start on audit of internal control integrated with the audit of financial statement as well. But hopefully we'll finish off 5.1.2 today. So if time allows, then we'll jump into the last point as well. Otherwise, like tomorrow morning, we'll start with that. And if you quickly take a look, what we have covered before the brief is forming an audit opinion, right? This table, one of our favorite table for all audit conclusion. And basically these 3 points, which we have discussed in detail: evaluation before reaching to any conclusion about the audit evidence, about the appropriateness of documentation, and whether the financial statement are free from material misstatement or not. These all things we have discussed in detail, and then we did some practice question. Now jumping into this table. So this table, like you won't find anywhere else, to be very honest. It's been specifically created for you guys in these notes, and I'm sure like this table will help you in last time revision for your exam purpose, and it will give you a quick eyebird view for all kind of audit reports, right? So here, if you see, this table is containing all the forms and content of the audit report for the non-issuer, right? This table is for non-issuer and next table is for the issuer. So we have 2 tables to be covered. One is for the non-issuer and the second is for the issuer. And this also include emphasis of matter paragraph and other matter paragraph, information and contents required in the audit report as and when it is being applicable. So we'll be discussing more in detail when emphasis of matter paragraph is required or other matter paragraph required. But here, just keep in mind the format of the audit report, and when the respective things is being applicable, what all things you need to add and what all things you need to remove, right? So here, if you see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of report. One is standard report. What is standard report? Which is like unmodified report. What we are discussing, non-issuer. Non-issuers mean modified and unmodified, right? Keep the terminology in mind. Unmodified and modified. So standard report is unmodified, right? Then there is a gap issue. So, oh my God, here it should be modified. Right? When there is a gas issue, can be modified, right? When there's a gap issue and severe or pervasive impact, it's an adverse opinion. And when the gas issue with the material or pervasive impact, it is a disclaimer of opinion. So all 5 type of reports, which paragraph you need to consider is tick mark yes. Which paragraph you are not required to consider in the respective report has been marked as cross, right? Thumb rule: what is tick, you need to consider in the respective report. What is cross, you are not required to consider in that respective report. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
First thing and the foremost thing is title. Title of the report. Here you need to clearly mention independent audit report, right? So it's mandatorily to mention independent in the audit report, the title. If you go back and see the audit report of those Microsoft and GM, maybe I can present that also here so that you can correlate the theory what we are discussing with how it actually works practically. So this is like General Motors 10K. So 1 second, see where we have audit report. So yeah, this is your audit report. If you see report of independent registered public accounting firm, right? It's clearly mentioned independent. Can you all see the audit report?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So is it mentioned specifically that this is an independent registered public accounting firm? So in case of listed company, we have to mention independent registered public accounting firm because we are registered with PCOB. Right? For the non-issuer, it is required report of independent public accounting firm or certified public accountant if you are a individual. Right? Make sense? Second thing is address. To whom you need to address this report? To the shareholder and board of director. Right? To whom this is being addressed? To the shareholder and the company. Right? For the private company, to those charged with governance. Address to those charged with governance. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right? Third is introductory paragraph. Introductory paragraph, in that you will be mentioning the name of the entity, you will be mentioning the state, you will be specifically stating that the financial statement have been audited. And third thing which you will be mentioning is the title of each statement, like financial position, operation, cash flow statement, etc. Lastly, date and the period which you have covered. So this is called introductory paragraph. What is called introductory paragraph? So like that file we have is general note is of for the public company, which is slightly different than for the non-issuers, right? So in the public company, you will see directly it's starting with the opinion paragraph. Whereas for the non-issuer, you start with the introductory paragraph in which you will be mention the name of the entity, and you will be mentioning that we have performed the audit of the financial statement, and including the statement include balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, and notes to accounts attached with that financial statement. And will be I'll show you like the draft audit report for the issuer as well, so which we'll be having in our notes later on. But here just understand what is the key pointers. You know why I have mentioned key pointer, because in exam these key pointers will be tested. They will not test you theoretically, where they will not ask you to draft an audit report, but they will be testing you on the respective key pointers. That's the reason I have specifically mentioned here key pointers which you need to be mindful for the examination points. Right? Fourth paragraph will be management responsibility. What will be the management responsibility? Two major responsibility, right? First one is fair presentation of financial statements. Second is the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control. Right? These are the two responsibilities we are studying since you can say third chapter, management responsibility. Yes, no?
Yes,
right?
sir.
So in all kind of report, whether it's a standard report, modified report, adverse report, or disclaimer of report, all these four paragraphs are mandatory part of the report. Right? On the top, you need to mention independent audit report. You need to address that report to those charged with governance, entity name, or those charged with governance. Then third paragraph will be introductory paragraph, in which you will be mentioning this audit report is of so and so company, and we have audited the financial statement, including the balance sheet, statement of income, or cash flow statement, and notes to accounts attached to it for the period this and ended on year end on this date. Right? Then you'll be mentioning the management responsibility is the fair presentation of the financial statement and design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control. Next paragraph is auditor responsibility. What is the auditor responsibility? Major responsibility of the auditor is to express the opinion. Right? What is the major responsibility of the auditor? Is to express the opinion. Right? Second thing is to express the opinion. What auditor need to do? Conduct the audit in accordance with GAS. Here it is GAS. If you see, that's the difference. Here it is GAS. In the listed company, PCOB auditing standard. Right? So you'll be conducting the audit in accordance with gas. Third thing is auditor believe that the evidence is sufficient and appropriate to provide the basis of opinion. You need to explicitly mention that you believe that the evidence which you have obtained by performing the audit in accordance with the gas is sufficient and appropriate to reach to the conclusion, to give you the basis of the opinion. Make sense? You'll be giving an affirmation. Yes, we have performed the audit in accordance with gas, and the audit opinion which we have obtained is based on the sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, right? Fourth thing is auditor involved performing the procedure to obtain evidence. So we have performed the audit procedure to obtain the respective evidence, and procedure we have selected is depend on the auditor judgment, including the assessment of risk, consideration of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statement. How we have identified and selected the sample is based on the auditor professional judgment and the risk assessed by the auditor, and considering the internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statement. These things we have considered, and the auditor professional judgment has been applied to identify it and testing the respective samples, right? These all are being mandatorily communication required as a part of auditor responsibility in the non-issuer audit report, right? Whether it's an standard report, modified report, adverse report, or disclaimer of opinion. In all the case, you will be mentioning the auditor responsibility as well. If you see the note, when auditing financial statement only, when you are auditing only financial statement, because for a non-issuer, audit of internal control is not mandatory, right? Generally, you will be auditing only financial statement unless and until management asks you to perform the audit of internal controls as well. Then internal controls is considered for the risk assessment purpose only, but you are not required to express an opinion on internal control when you have been appointed to conduct the audit of financial statement only. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right. So these 5 things are mandatory part of any report of the known issuer: title, address, introduction, management responsibility, and auditor responsibility. Last thing is an audit include evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policy used and reasonableness of significant accounting estimate made by the management. This is also auditor is required to confirm in the auditor responsibility paragraph. These all statement you'll be making in the as a part of auditor responsibility, right? Now, if there is a qualification, or if it is an adverse opinion, or if it is a disclaimer of opinion, then basis of qualification, basis of adverse opinion, or basis of disclaimer opinion will come before the opinion paragraph. When it will be coming before the opinion paragraph, right? So in all the audit report, if there is any qualification, adverse opinion, or disclaimer of opinion, then basis of that qualification will come before the opinion paragraph. In the standard report, it is not required. That is, in unmodified report, it is not required because you do not have any qualification, you do not have any adverse opinion, you do not have any disclaimer of opinion. Make sense? Yes, no?
Yes, yes.
So in the first column, if you see, all the 3 are being marked as cross because it's a standard report. Here, no qualification, adverse, or disclaimer is required. If you see in first one, is the first one, oh, second one and third one, these two. If you see in these 2 columns, only first point is marked as tick. That is the basis of qualification you need to mention when there is a modified report, whether it's on account of gap issue or it is on account of gas issue. If you see here in the fourth, only adverse opinion paragraph is marked as tick, and in the last one, the disclaimer of opinion basis is marked as tick. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now coming to the opinion paragraph. So first you have given the basis of opinion. Now you are coming to the opinion. Opinion could be of 5 types. What are the 5 types of opinion?
Qualified opinion,
Unqualified, unmodified,
unqualified,
modified,
unmodified,
adverse.
What else?
disclaimer,
I said
Disclaimer of
5
opinion.
type. 5 type of opinions. What are those 5 types?
unqualified, qualified, unmodified, modified, disclaimer,
Disclaimer. Adverse.
Sir, standard, qualified gap, qualified gap, adverse gap, disclaimer gap.
Yeah. So you are missing at qualification is on account of gap as well, and it may be on account of gas as well. So there are 5 type of reporting. One is unmodified, second is modified. Modified on account of gap issue, modified on account of gas issue, adverse opinion, and lastly disclaimer of opinion, right? So these are the 5 type of reports. So if you see, first one is unmodified opinion, second is modified, third is adverse, fourth is disclaimer. So modified opinion here is for gap issue or gas issue, both. Make sense?
yes sir,
If you see in the modified opinion, we have kept tick mark in these 2 columns, which is for gap issue and for gas
Yeah.
issue. Modified opinion is not applicable for standard report, adverse report, or disclaimer of opinion, right? So now first understand what you will be writing in the opinion paragraph when there is no qualification, that is unmodified opinion. So here you will be mentioning financial statement presented fairly in accordance with the applicable reporting framework, because here you'll be issuing the report on financial statement, right? So here you'll be mentioning only for the financial statement. Paragraph should be identify the reporting framework and its origin. You need to mention specifically whether the reporting framework is US GAAP, IFRS, IND-AS, or any other reporting framework, right? So financial statement presented fairly in accordance with the applicable reporting framework, fairly in accordance with US GAAP, fairly in accordance with IFRS, fairly in accordance with IND-AS, right? So you need to specifically mention that. Make sense? Simple, unmodified opinion.
Yes, sir.
Now coming to the modified opinion. Modified opinion, it can be on account of gap issue or it can be on account of gas issue, right? So first statement you need to mention here is except for. That means what you will be mentioning, financial statement presented fairly in accordance with US GAAP, except for. And then you'll be mentioning the detail about the qualification, and above that you'll be mentioning the basis of qualification. What are the basis of qualification? First you need to mention, and then in your audit report you'll be giving opinion paragraph that financial statement presented fairly in accordance with US GAAP, except for or with the exception of. So you can use either language. You can say except for, or you can use with the exception of. So either word you can use when you are using the when you are drafting the modified opinion, right? So here in exception you will be disclosing the reason of qualification, and if needed give the reference of emphasis of matter paragraph or other matter paragraph or notes to accounts where that respective financial statement line item for which you are giving reference to the qualification. For example, if you are, let's say, if your warranty provision is being understated. So let's say company has created a provision of, let's say, $1 billion, whereas you expect the provision for warranty should be $1.5 billion. And there's a $500 million gap, which is a material to your financial statement.
right? So in that case of scenario, you'll be giving reference to the notes to accounts, which is the notes to account for the warranty provision. So how you will be drafting that report? Financial statement presented fairly in accordance with applicable reporting framework. That is, financial statement are presented fairly in accordance with US GAAP, except for warranty provision disclosed in the note number, let's say 14 or 15, right? So in case of GAAP issue, right? When you have gas issue, in case of scope limitation, that is gas issue, you need to mention the scope limitation in opinion paragraph and should only refer emphasis of matter paragraph as a scope limitation not been explained in the other matter paragraph or in notes to accounts. Whenever you have scope limitation, you mandatorily giving emphasis of matter paragraph, in which you'll be explaining what was the scope limitation and how material the impact of that scope limitation which you have assessed. Right? Make sense? Scope limitation. Let's take an example of inventory verification, physical count of inventory. Let's say, for example, there is a plant in which location? In which location?
Sir, Ukraine.
Your favorite location nowadays. So you have a plant in Ukraine which you cannot physically verify, right? The inventory lying in that plant you cannot physically verify. So you have performed the alternative procedure, but it's a scope limitation, right? You do not give you do not gain the comfort over the existence and the valuation of the inventory. So in that case of scenario, you'll be specifically mentioning in the scope limitation paragraph that this much amount of inventory is lying in the Ukraine plant or maybe job worker at Ukraine, which we were not able to verify. And you'll be giving the detail in emphasis of matter paragraph, and in qualification paragraph, you'll be giving the reference to the emphasis of matter paragraph. Right? Makes sense? How to deal with scope limitation in case of qualification, right? In case of modification, in case of disclaimer of opinion, we'll be discussing later, but in case of qualification or modification, how you dealing with the scope limitation. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Next is, in case of departure from GAAP, you can mention in emphasis of matter paragraph, disclose the principal effect of qualification, or you can mention in the notes to accounts as well. So for GAAP issue, you can mention in emphasis of matter paragraph, or you can mention the detail in notes to accounts as well. Now coming to the third category of opinion, fourth category of opinion, which is adverse opinion. If you see, the tick mark is only here when we have adverse opinion, right? Rest of all cross. So here, when you are issuing an adverse opinion, when do you issue adverse opinion? For GAAP issue or gas issue?
GAAP issue.
Sir, GAAP.
GAAP issue, material and pervasive, right? When you have GAAP issue, material and pervasive, right? For example, going concern, right? For example, sales we have discussed, which have pervasive impact on more than one or two or more financial statement line item. So here you'll be starting the paragraph as because of significance of the matter discussed in basis of adverse opinion. Whenever you are writing adverse opinion, before that you'll be giving a basis of adverse opinion, right? So how do you draft the opinion paragraph? Financial statement presented fairly in accordance with the US GAAP because of significance of the matter discussed in the basis of adverse opinion paragraph above, right? And then you'll be mentioning the reason of your adverse opinion and disclose the principal effect of the subject matter on the adverse opinion. So two things you need to keep in mind. Whenever you are giving an adverse opinion, you need to write basis of adverse opinion before the opinion paragraph, and in the opinion paragraph you'll be starting with because of the significance of matter discussed in the basis of adverse opinion. That's how you'll be starting, and then you'll be giving the reason of adverse opinion and the impact of adverse opinion. Right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Last one, disclaimer of opinion. When do you issue disclaimer of opinion?
When there's a gas issue.
When there is a
yeah,
pervasive impact.
Pervasive gas issue.
Yeah,
sir, when
material.
there is a disclaimer, then we can withdraw now.
So we'll come into that, right? So disclaimer of opinion. So how do you draft that opinion? You need to give basis of disclaimer of opinion first. Then opinion paragraph, you'll be mentioning financial statement presented fairly in accordance with the US GAAP. Because of the significance of the matter described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion, specify we have not been able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to provide basis of an audit opinion. So you'll be mentioning here that we have not able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to provide any basis for my audit opinion. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion. Disclaimer of opinion means you are not expressing an opinion, right? Qualified opinion, non-qualified opinion, modified, unmodified, or adverse opinion. There you are giving opinion, right? Whether it's right or it's wrong. You are quantifying or you are giving an opinion. But in disclaimer, you are not giving an opinion. You are disclaiming yourself from giving an opinion. Make sense? What is the difference between adverse and disclaimer?
Yes, sir.
Right? So accordingly, we do not express. You mention.
So when there is a disclaimer, then we can withdraw from the engagement. Then we don't have to give any opinion and we can withdraw it directly.
No, like withdrawal is extreme last resort. When management do not agree with you, or you are not agreeing with the management conclusion. If management is agreed to take disclaimer of opinion, then why you need to withdraw? If management do not agree, then the last resort is withdrawal. Withdrawal is always a last resort.
Okay. And sir, if the management is not giving the appropriate evidence that we are requiring or appropriate documents that we need, then also we can withdraw it, or we can give
no, first you need to, if management is not giving you appropriate documentation, first you need to evaluate the impact. If the impact is material, then you will be giving a qualified opinion. If impact is material and persuasive, then you will be disclaiming the opinion. Right? If management do not agree with the qualification or disclaimer, then you will be withdrawing. Make sense? First, you need to evaluate the impact before reaching to any conclusion. So if you go back in the morning session, which we have discussed, three major things we have discussed for reaching to the conclusion. Audit evidence obtained, appropriateness of document. Third, whether the financial statement are free from material misstatement or not. So you need to evaluate this for reaching to any conclusion.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Right? So far, so good, everyone? All five type of opinion?
Yes, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now coming to the additional paragraphs required on need basis. First is emphasis of matter paragraph. Second is other matter paragraph. And third one, which is meant for the listed company, is the critical audit matter, which is also being a mandatory kind of paragraph nowadays to be for the issuers, not for the non-issuers. Emphasis of matter paragraph. When do you write emphasis of matter paragraph? When you have a issue on going concern, right? When there is a significant doubt about the entity ability to continue as a going concern. So in that case of scenario, you will be definitely writing an emphasis of matter paragraph. Make sense? Whether you are qualifying or not qualifying. Emphasis of matter paragraph or other matter paragraph are those paragraph which auditor wants to bring into the attention of the user of the financial statement. It does not mean it's a qualification. Make sense? Emphasis of matter paragraph or other matter paragraph is not mean that they are qualification. They are the important information which as an auditor we believe that user of the financial statement should be aware of when they are using the financial statement or when they are planning to rely on our audit report. Make sense? What is the difference between qualification and emphasis of matter paragraph and other matter paragraph? Yes, no, Mr. Sanchit Karmando, Kashish, Rahul.
Yes, sir.
I keep on checking whether you are with me or not.
Yes, sir.
No, sir, we are with you.
I know it's hard in virtual environment.
I agree with you always.
Second thing is lack of consistency in financial statement reporting. What do you mean by lack of consistency in financial statement reporting?
Lack of consistency can be like when we have a policy which was there last year, okay, like the depreciation policy, we were following straight line method. But this policy is not being adopted in the next financial year. That is lack of consistency. There can be other policies as well. So that is lack of consistency. What I feel.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to add? Kashish, Sanchit, Rahul, Garvit.
I agree with what I said.
Huh?
Sir, agree with Ayush.
Agree with Ayush. So ditto. Yes, no, Ayush, what you said is absolutely right. So for example, in previous year, you will be following straight line method of depreciation, which is allowed as per GAAP. Now, in current year, you have changed the policy to written down value method or unit of depreciation method, right? So both are allowed as per GAAP. But now you are changing and it has material impact, which you as an auditor, you believe should be bring into the attention of the user of financial statement. For example, previous year, you might be using FIFO method for the inventory valuation. Now, in current year, you have changed to weighted average. Both are being allowed as per GAAP, but it has a material impact on the financial statement and it is being different in the previous year results are different than the current year because of change in accounting policy. Like for example, when in 2018 we implemented ASC 606, right? There is a huge change in the accounting policy for revenue recognition that may have severe impact on the overall financial statement. So in that case of scenario, we have issued emphasis of matter paragraph in almost all the reports, right? So those things are required disclosure or bring into the attention of the user of the financial statement. Next is use of special purpose reporting framework. Special purpose reporting framework, for example, if you are auditing other than GAAP, right? For example, IFRS, you need to mention in emphasis of matter paragraph that you are using IFRS, not US GAAP. Right? If you are using for, let's say, government auditing you are doing or single audit you are doing, you're using GAGAS, right? In that case of scenario, you need to specifically mention we are using special purpose reporting framework.
So it can be for somewhere we are using cash accounting as well.
Cash is not generally for companies.
It's
It can be
for some specific
no,
reason.
like how in India we have like tax audit.
Right, tax audit. Like,
that's for tax purposes.
yes, right.
Right, that's a special purpose reporting framework. Next is material uncertain litigation matter. If any litigation matter which is uncertain and which may have, you feel like may have material impact in future on the financial statement and you wish to bring into the attention of the user of financial statement. Significant related party transaction if you want to bring into, this is all professional judgment of auditor, right? It's not mandatory, but it's professional judgment of the auditor. If you believe it's good to bring into the attention of the user of financial statement, then you'll be adding into emphasis of meta-paragraph. Important subsequent event. So here is the list of emphasis of meta-paragraph. Like other than this, if any other topic you feel is being relevant for the user of financial statement, then you'll be adding in other meta-paragraph. That means for emphasis of meta-paragraph, they have given you the guidance, right? They have given you the list of these are the topics which you can consider in emphasis of meta-paragraph. But other than that, if you want to consider anything else into the intention of the user of financial statement, then you can write into the other meta-paragraph. Make sense? The paragraph
Yes,
should indicate that the auditor opinion is not modified. Keep in mind, auditor opinion is not modified. Emphasis of meta-paragraph are the matter that the auditor deem it necessary to the user to understand, better understand the financial statement. Right? So here if you see, wherever it is applicable, whether it's for unmodified opinion, modified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion, wherever it is applicable, you will be mentioning that emphasis of meta-paragraph. Make sense?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next is other meta-paragraph. So this paragraph are actually in a sequence. So this also you need to keep in mind. So like all these things, if you see here, serial number I have mentioned. First one is title, second is address, third is introductory, fourth is management responsibility, fifth is auditor responsibility, sixth is basis of qualification, adverse opinion or disclaimer of opinion if there is any, seventh is other opinion paragraph, then eighth is emphasis of matter paragraph, right? And after that, if you're giving other matter, then it is ninth paragraph, and then if you are adding restricted use, then it will be 10th. So come to other matter paragraph, follow the opinion paragraph and any emphasis of matter paragraph if there. So emphasis of other matter paragraph, like we have discussed, emphasis of matter paragraph, they have been defined like these are the area. If you feel as an auditor required disclosure, then you can add in EOM. But in addition to these 5 or 6 items, any other item you believe is being material for the user of financial statement, but it's not a qualification, but you want to bring into the attention of the user of financial statement, then you can add in the other matter paragraph. That can be debt covenant, right? Significant transaction, event, compliance, requirement, supplementary information. So those things you can add in other matter paragraph. For example, company has, let's say, $1 million of equity, and they have, let's say, $5 million of debt, right? And they have a stringent covenant for those debt. So as an auditor, you believe it is relevant information for the user of the financial statement to know what are the debt covenants there, right? So in that case of scenario, you can add that in other matter paragraph. Or maybe let's say you have one significant customer. For example, let's say I was auditing a company called Aurangabad Electricals Limited. Their 90% of their sale goes to Bajaj Automobile. So Bajaj is their significant customer, right? If for any reason Bajaj stop supplying from that Aurangabad Electrical, it may result into a going concern issue for them, right? Even though it does not fall in any of these 6 categories which has been mentioned above. So we have given in other matter paragraph that company made more than 90% sales to the Bajaj Automobile. So that's a significant contract that company do have, and their business is dependent on requirement of Bajaj Automobile.
Bajaj. Okay.
Right? Same way when I was like auditing a company called Loyalty Rewards Management, their 72% of revenue was coming from SBI. Right? Okay. So in that case of scenario, we have mentioned like they have more than 70% revenue is coming from single customer. So those are informative things. Those are not qualification. Those are informative things which you as an auditor believe would be good for the user of financial statement. Make sense?
So any significant related party transaction.
That comes in EOM. It's specifically mentioned.
Okay.
Right?
RPT,
Litigation
yeah.
matter, related party, subsequent event, tax related matter. It is being specifically mentioned over to be reported in EOM. If something is not specifically mentioned, that will come in other matter.
But sir, I want to understand, like in the RPT also, we are not having any qualification or anything. So then by the
EOM is not
there's
a
a need of
qualification.
emphasis.
EOM is not a qualification.
Right.
If you see the paragraph here, the paragraph should indicate that auditor opinion is not
modified.
Right? EOM or other matter paragraph is information only, not a qualification.
Okay.
Right? Here also, if you see, the other matter paragraph is required when auditor may deem it necessary to draw the attention of the user of financial statement. It's not a qualification.
Okay. So I think most of the things are covered in emphasis or matter only, EOM only.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
in that case also, is there a possibility that if we have an EOM and we don't have other matters paragraph?
Yeah, there might be possibility.
Okay.
It's not mandatory to. It's not mandatory to have EOM or other matter. If you see here, I have clearly mentioned if applicable.
Right. Right.
Right. Whenever.
So is it like we would be having headers? Because if I remember in XBRL, when we do through tagging of auditors board, we used to have headings and it has no matters to be reported.
No. In audit report, you not like this. That is a filing requirement.
Okay.
If you see, for example, this journal motor, here if you see like basis of opinion we have mentioned, introduction we have mentioned, basis of opinion we have mentioned, definition and limitation of internal controls we have mentioned, and conclusion. So here there is no emphasis of matter paragraph, there is no you can say qualification, there is no other matter paragraph. Right? If it is applicable, then only you will be mentioning. If it is not applicable, then you will not be mentioning at all.
So this ICFR was it the internal audit report or it was the external audit, right? Stat audit only, na?
ये वो बात हो गई यार, रामायण खत्म हो गई है संचित की। सीता को लेके कौन गया था, कोई बता दो मुझे यार।
मैंने वो एकदम से डेफिनेशन पढ़ के डाउट हो गया।
मिस्टर जैन,
स्टैट ऑडिट ये है सर। यूके गैप के साथ कंफ्यूज हो गया था।
Yes, Nimisha, Pranjali, Dervit, they might help Sanchit. Are we studying stat audit or internal audit?
अरे नहीं सर, हो गया क्लियर।
आयुष बता दो, सीता हरण किया किसने? कोई संचित को।
संचित सीता का हरण राम ने किया था।
Oh boy. ठीक है संचित, all good?
हाँ जी सर, वो यूके गैप में कंफ्यूज हो गया हूँ मैं।
नहीं यूके गैप हो चाहे इंडियन गैप हो या यूएस गैप हो, we are in audit, we are doing majorly as an external auditor. So we are studying CPAs. CPAs are external auditors. So if you would have been studying CIA, then it would be more of internal auditor.
Yes.
Cool. Okay,
Yes.
10th point, 10th paragraph, restricting the use of audit report, right? When you need to restrict the audit report. So what all things you'll be mentioning in your audit report? When report is intended only for specified party. For example, let's say group audit report, right? Component team is doing group audit only for the group audit purpose, and their report is to be going only to the group auditors, right? Not to the lender, not to the shareholder, not to the banker, not to creditor, right? Make sense? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
or maybe like if you are doing any regulatory audit, like for example, any regulatory authority has been appointed you to conduct the regulatory audit for any particular company. So in that case of scenario, you'll be conducting the audit of the company, but you'll be reporting to that regulatory authority only. So in that case of scenario, you can restrict the use of audit report. For example, single audit, group audit, contractual audits, regulatory audit. So those things comes under the, in those case of scenario, you can restrict the use of your audit report only for the specified party and for the specified purpose. Right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, when auditor perform the review or audit of any particular account or assertion in addition to the audit of financial statement whole, then such audit of account or assertion is considered as byproduct of the main financial statement audit as a whole. To avoid any misunderstanding or misinterpretation, auditors should restrict the use of the report on byproduct to specified user. So what generally happens? Like for example, your company is, let's say, a tech-based company, or maybe like a healthcare company, or maybe you can say pharmaceutical company, right? They might be investing huge amount of money on research and development, right? And for those investment which they are making on R&D, they will be getting a tax credit, or they will be getting some government grant, or they will be getting some financial assistance. So in that case of scenario, they will ask you to perform the complete financial statement audit. In addition to that, they will ask you to do the audit more in detail for the research and development expenditure and give them a certification for the respective grant, award, tax credit, so on and so forth. So in that case of scenario, when you are conducting the full-fledged audit, in that you're any which way is testing the research and development expenditure. Right? You are already testing the research and development expenditure. So here you'll be issuing a specific report on the research and development expenditure for the specific purpose to the specific party. In that case of scenario, you should not be combining the financial statement report to that specific financial statement line item, account balance, or disclosure report. So you need to issue two separate reports. Financial statement report, which will be available for the general public, but when you are doing audit of research and development expenditure and issuing the report for R&D expenditure for specific party and for specific purpose, for that it can be restricted use. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So restricted use of report should be separate paragraph. So in audit report, whenever those audit report you want to restrict the use, you need to mention in a separate paragraph. That will be your 10th paragraph, right? That will be after other matter paragraph. So what you will be mentioning in that paragraph? A statement that the report is intended solely for the information and use of the specified purpose. For example, if you are a component auditor and you are doing component audit for the consolidation purpose for group audit, right? For example, you are you are EY India, right? And there is a EY US. EY US, let's say, is doing consolidation of financial statement in which there is an entity in India for which you are an auditor, and you are supposed to report to the EY US, right, for that particular component. So in your report, you will be specifically mentioned that our report is intended solely for the group reporting purpose and to be used by the EY US only. Make sense? Yes, no?
So can you please explain this again once more? Can you explain?
So for example, let's say, for example, if like EY is, let's say, an auditor of Amazon. Amazon have entity, let's say, in 50 countries. US, Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, UK, Russia, India as well. So let's say EY is the auditor of consolidated or group financial statement of Amazon. And EY US has appointed EY India as an auditor for the Indian component.
Okay.
And EY India is doing audit of Amazon India and issuing the report to the EY US for the consolidation purpose.
Okay.
So in that case of scenario, EY India audit report should be mentioning clearly the restricted use of the report. So in that paragraph, they need to mention a specific statement that our report is intended solely for the Amazon India, solely for the group reporting of Amazon consolidated financial statement and should be used by the EY US only.
But sir, then the EY India, which is conducting the audit for the Indian operations, audit to like it would be for the general users as well, right?
No, there are two types of audit.
Okay.
One is statutory audit, second is group audit. Statutory audit is for the general public, group audit is for group consolidation.
Okay. So what you were saying is that the audit it would be conducting would be specifically for EY for that
consolidation.
And the statutory audit it would be conducting separately. For issuing the report to general users.
Yes, absolutely.
But so the report, in that case, we will be addressing the report to EY US or to the shareholders?
EY US.
So we will change the address as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Now you are restricting the use.
Okay. So in that case, it will be only the two EY US instead of two shareholders and board of meeting.
Yes. Please, in your company, you can check like group reporting, where like how the component teams are reports. You can check some report. If you get some sample, drop on the WhatsApp group as well for the benefit of everyone. So Nimisha, in last class, you were supposed to send something to the group.
I think I was supposed to send this misstatements template. I'll send it now, sorry.
Yeah. So it's reminded me. Thank you. That will be helpful for everyone. Okay, then last thing is manual or printed signature. As an auditor, you need to be signing whether you are issuing any kind of report. Name of the city and state in which your audit firm is practicing, that you need to mention. Date of the reports as well, right? So you need to mention your name, signature, city, state in which you are practicing, and the date of audit report. So now in the date section also there is some thing which you need to be mindful about. So first thing is the report should not be dated earlier than the date on which the auditor has obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. First thing you should be mindful, you have conducted the audit. Only and only after that you will reach to the conclusion, and once you have concluded, only after that you will be signing. So it should not be that like audit is on the way and you are signing up the report. It should not be like that. Once you have all the sufficient and appropriate audit evidence obtained and you have evaluated all those sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, reach to the conclusion, then only you will be signing the audit report. Make sense? Second is, auditor is primarily responsible for subsequent event up to the report release date. What is subsequent event? What is subsequent event?
Events post balance sheet date.
Yes.
Balance sheet date to report release date. For example, your year end is December. That means 1st January, and your report release is, let's say, 28th of February. So 1st January to 28th February is the subsequent period in which any material event has been occurred, which may result into impact on the financial statement of the previous year is called subsequent event. And it's being a responsibility of auditor to test those subsequent event. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
When subsequent event occur after the date of auditor report, but before the issuance. For example, 28th of February, you have signed up the report, right? And on 2nd March, company is planning to release that report to the shareholder, to the banker, to the lenders, right? So in that case of scenario, in these 2 days, for example, 28th February to 2nd March, you come up with any subsequent event which has a material impact which you have missed. Now what you will do? Are you getting my point? On 28th of February, you have signed the audit report, and management has issued that report to the shareholder or to the financer or to the lender or to the creditor or to the customer on 2nd of March. And unfortunately, something happened on 1st of March. Then how do you deal with that situation?
We discussed this in the last class.
Yes.
Yes. It was people need to reissue the statements after changing them.
Mhm.
And,
Sorry.
we need to make the necessary changes and then request the management to accept those changes and reissue the statement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to add? Yes, Kashish, Nimisha, Sanchit. Ayush has covered everything.
Most of the last time I was not there.
Okay, so an auditor may use dual date and mention or give reference to the notes to accounts of the respective event and restrict the responsibility to that event. Second is auditor may issue a revised or fresh report on subsequent date on the entire financial statement and assume the responsibility of the entire financial statement till the revised date. So 2 things could be possible. One thing, like Ayush said, you will be requesting the management for consider the impact of that subsequent event in the financial statement, right? And then you can ask to give your original report back to you, and then you'll be issuing a fresh report on a fresh date. Second thing is, for example, they have already issued. In that case of scenario, you'll be adding another report in which you'll be giving the reference to that notes to accounts on which that change has been made and giving reference to the original report, and you'll be requesting management to give this additional report to each user whom they have already issued this report. So it can be revised report or it can be dual dated report. Make sense?
सर बट हम डुअल डेट रिपोर्ट में क्या था मतलब लाइक उसमें
Yes,
पहले
for example, you have already issued a report on 28th of February, right? And on 1st March, you come to know some subsequent event.
Yes.
Right? Company has already issued the financial statement on 2nd March. Right. Then 3rd March, company agree, let's say, to make those changes.
Okay.
Right? For example, changes are on, let's say, on payroll expenses only. Payroll expenses. And they have updated the payroll expenses. Okay. And now they have revised the financial statement with updated payroll expense. So for that, there would be a separate notes to accounts in which payroll expenses will be there.
Yes.
Right. So now you'll be issuing a fresh report.
Okay.
In that report would be dated, let's say, 6th of March. In 2-3 days, you have tested the additional information. And then you'll be issuing a fresh report on, let's say, on 6th of March. In that report, you'll be giving the reference to the original report, and you'll be giving the reference to that notes to accounts in which changes has been happened. And that is called dual report.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Or second thing is, you will be asking management to quash the original report, give me back, and I will quash that original report, and I'll be issuing you the fresh report with the new numbers.
Okay.
So that's called fresh report. So it's auditor, it's completely on auditor professional judgment, whether they want to issue a fresh report or they want to issue a dual dated report.
Okay.
Right, Sanchit, Kashish, Nimisha, Garvit?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is dual dated report?
So when we have issued the first report and management agrees to do the change for the subsequent event, then we will prepare a new report and ask the management to issue it to all the stakeholders, to which here they have submitted the original report. And in the new report, we will be giving a reference as well to the original report and where the change is being impacted.
Right. Yeah, Kashish, you are saying something?
And sir, if all the changes that has been made in the second attempt, so all those things will be mentioned in the notes in the particular section, or we will have to, give another report for the same, like how?
No, it need to be mentioned in notes to accounts.
Okay.
Otherwise, they are not following gap. Then you'll be qualifying the report.
Okay.
Right. So I think this is very important section which we have covered. So I'm sure this table will be very helpful rather than like studying each and individual report and format. So this table will give you a quick glance of all category of reports for the non-issuer.
Kamal, is it essential to remember this table?
Yes. For two reasons. For multiple choice question, you need to understand which paragraph probably come before what and after what, and what needs to be considered in the respective paragraph. And then for the task-based simulation, they will give you the report and they will give you fill in the blanks. So where you need to select the right statements from those options available. So this is something very important. You need to be thorough with the format of audit report, because as a CPA, this is something you must be knowing it.
Yeah, we get standard templates for it though.
Yeah, this is standard. This is like standard template, concise in a format you should remember for example.
Yeah, I don't see the logic of, them asking us to remember this, just because you'll always get standard templates and you don't really
in big consulting firm you get standard templates. But in small firm like as a CPA, there is something main area to test.
Okay.
Right.
Also, can you send the refreshed notes? I think you've updated it.
Sure. Cool. So I think this is good for today. So tomorrow we'll be starting with the issuer side, both financial statement audit report and integrated audit report. Right.
Right. So
enjoy rest of your Saturday.